The annual Thompson family reunion was in full swing at Uncle Pete's McMansion, a gaudy testament to what he called old money mixed with new success. The usual suspects were gathered around the pool, sipping expensive wines and comparing corporate victories like warriors comparing battle scars. I sat in the corner, nursing a glass of water, watching my cousins and uncles parade their achievements. My laptop was open beside me. There were still some final details to review for tomorrow's announcement. Emily. Uncle Pete's booming voice carried across the patio. Still buried in spreadsheets? Come join the real business conversation. I closed my laptop slowly, checking my phone one last time. 3 unread messages from my executive team. Legal. Final merger documents prepared for signing. PR. Press release drafted for tomorrow's announcement. Operations. Integration teams ready for deployment. Coming, Uncle Pete, I called back, sliding my phone into my pocket. 10 years of being the family's perpetual junior analyst was about to come to an end. So, Uncle Pete grinned as I approached the group. Still pushing papers at Meridian Corp? When are you going to get a real position like your cousin James here? James, freshly promoted to Regional VP at Thompson Financial Group, Uncle Pete's company, raised his glass with a smirk. There's always room in my department for an entry-level position, The others chuckled. I took a slow sip of water, letting their laughter wash over me. They had no idea that while they'd been mocking my modest career at Meridian Corporation, I'd been orchestrating the largest financial sector merger of the decade. Under my professional name, Elizabeth Morgan. Actually, I said carefully, I've been quite busy at Meridian lately. We're going through some organizational changes. Oh, Uncle Pete's eyebrows rose. Finally getting that senior analyst position? My phone buzzed again. The caller ID read Board Chairman. Excuse me, I said, I need to take this. I stepped away, aware of their dismissive glances. James's voice carried across the patio, probably her supervisor assigning more spreadsheets. Ms. Morgan, the chairman's voice was crisp. The board has approved the final terms. Thompson Financial Group is officially ours. I turned back to watch Uncle Pete holding court, bragging about his company's market position. Excellent. Proceed with the announcement preparations. And Chairman, make sure the integration teams are ready. Tomorrow will be interesting. They still don't know, do they? He sounded amused. No, I smiled, watching James show off his new Rolex. They have no idea their junior analyst cousin has been running Meridian Corporation for the past 5 years. And now owns their company. Tell that too. I ended the call and rejoined the group. Uncle Pete was in full swing, explaining his latest business strategy. You see, Emily, this is what real corporate leadership looks like. Thompson Financial Group is about to announce a major expansion. We're positioning ourselves as the dominant force in the market. How interesting, I murmured, checking my watch. In exactly 12 hours, that major expansion would be revealed as a hostile takeover by Meridian Corporation. Speaking of positions, Aunt Margaret chimed in, swirling her wine glass. When are you going to settle down, Emily? James just got engaged to a lovely investment banker. James's fiancée, Sophia, preened beside him. We're thinking of buying that new development on Highland Avenue. You know, the luxury condos. She glanced at my simple blazer and pants. But I suppose that's a bit out of an analyst's price range. My phone buzzed again. HR Director, Executive Transition Teams in place. Security, Access Protocols updated. Ready for tomorrow. Finance, Asset Transfer Documentation complete. Actually, I said, I just bought a penthouse downtown. The same building where Thompson Financial Group's headquarters was located. They'd soon learn why. Downtown. Uncle Pete scoffed. Must be one of those tiny starter units. Now, James here just closed on a 5-bedroom in the estates. Speaking of real estate, Cousin Mark joined in. Did you hear about that mysterious buyer acquiring all the prime commercial properties around our offices? Dad's been trying to figure out who's behind it. I hid my smile. Those properties were now part of Meridian's portfolio. My latest chess move in the acquisition game. Must be one of those big conglomerates, Uncle Pete declared. The real players, you know. Not these small-time analysts pushing papers. My phone lit up with a news alert. Market Watch. Major financial sector announcement expected tomorrow. Did you see this? James thrust his phone toward the group, showing the article. Something big's happening tomorrow. Dad, could this affect Thompson Financial? Uncle Pete waved dismissively. Nothing we can't handle. Thompson Financial Group has been in our family for 3 generations. We're untouchable. 3 generations, I mused aloud. It's amazing how quickly things can change in corporate America, isn't it? What would you know about it? James snorted. Still working on those quarterly reports? The sun was setting over the pool, casting long shadows across the patio. In less than 12 hours, these same people would be reading very different reports about how their untouchable company had been acquired by the very person they were mocking. My phone buzzed one final time. Executive Assistant. Your office at Thompson Financial has been prepared. Corner Suite, 50th floor. Uncle Pete's old office. More work emails? Aunt Margaret asked condescendingly. You really should learn to relax at family gatherings, dear. Oh, I am relaxing, I assured her. Just finalizing some organizational changes. Another spreadsheet reorganization? James laughed. How exciting. The caterers began serving dinner, and I watched my family take their seats at the long table, arranging themselves according to their perceived importance. Uncle Pete at the head, naturally, with James and other executives near him. They placed me at the far end with the second cousins and in-laws. If they only knew they were about to attend their last family dinner as controllers of Thompson Financial Group. The next morning, I arrived at Thompson Financial Group's headquarters an hour before the scheduled company-wide meeting. The lobby was buzzing with nervous energy. Rumors of a major announcement had everyone on edge. I bypassed the visitor's desk, using my new executive access card to enter the private elevator. The security guard who'd previously ignored me during my analyst visits now stood at attention. Good morning, Ms. Morgan, he said, using my professional name. My phone was already flooding with messages. PR team. Media assembled in main conference room. Security. All access protocols updated. Former executive credentials deactivated. Legal. Transition documents ready for distribution. The elevator opened directly into the executive floor, Uncle Pete's domain for the past 20 years. His assistant Caroline looked up, startled to see me step out. I'm sorry, this floor is restricted, she began. Not anymore, I said, handing her a folder. Please distribute these to all department heads. And Caroline, you're getting a raise. Her eyes widened as she read the merger announcement. You're Elizabeth Morgan? Among other names, I smiled, heading toward Uncle Pete's, now my office. The executive floor was starting to fill with arriving directors and VPs. James was already there, straightening his tie in the reflection of a window. Emily. He frowned. This floor is for executives only. The analyst meeting rooms are downstairs. Not today, I replied, continuing to what would soon be my office. Uncle Pete was inside, reviewing papers at his desk. He looked up, annoyance crossing his face. Emily, what are you doing here? We have an important announcement this morning. I know, I interrupted, setting my laptop on the desk, his desk. I'm making it. He laughed. Don't be ridiculous. Security. Won't help, I said calmly, pulling out my phone. Shall we wait for the others? It's more efficient to explain this once. As if on cue, my executive team entered, all wearing Meridian Corporation badges. Behind them came the board members, legal team, and PR representatives. What is the meaning of this? Uncle Pete demanded, standing up. Pete, one of the board members, stepped forward. Meet Elizabeth Morgan, the CEO of Meridian Corporation. The color drained from his face. Elizabeth Morgan? The one who's been buying up financial sector companies. The same, I confirmed, laying the merger documents on his desk. Though you know me better as your niece Emily. James stumbled back against the wall. That's impossible. You're just an analyst. A cover, I explained, that allowed me to observe Thompson Financial Group's operations up close while preparing for this acquisition. More executives were gathering at the office door, whispering as they noticed me sitting at Uncle Pete's desk. You can't do this, Uncle Pete sputtered. This company has been in our family for 3 generations, I finished. And now it's part of Meridian Corporation. Your leadership team has already been notified. The board approved the merger last night. My phone lit up with a series of notifications. Stock exchange. Trading halted for Thompson Financial Group, TFG. Reuters. Breaking. Meridian Corp acquires Thompson Financial. Bloomberg. Elizabeth Morgan revealed as mystery buyer in financial sector. The company-wide meeting starts in 20 minutes, I said, opening my laptop. You might want to take a moment to process this. Uncle Pete gripped the edge of his desk. My desk now. How? We would have known if someone was buying up our shares. Shell companies, I explained. Blind trusts. The same techniques you taught me to ignore during family dinners because they were too complex for a junior analyst. James was frantically scrolling through his phone, probably watching his stock options transform under the merger terms. Those properties around the office, he whispered. The mysterious buyer. All Meridian Corp, I confirmed. We've been positioning for this takeover for 2 years. While you were mocking my spreadsheets, I was mapping out your entire corporate structure. Caroline appeared at the door. Ms. Morgan? The press is ready in the main conference room. Thank you, Caroline. I stood up, straightening my blazer. Uncle Pete, James, you're welcome to attend the announcement. First row seats have been reserved for former management. Aunt Margaret burst into the office, her face flushed. Pete, have you seen the news? Someone's bought the company. They're saying it's Elizabeth Moore. She stopped short, seeing me behind the desk. Emily. Good morning, Aunt Margaret. I smiled. We were just discussing the merger. Would you like to join us for the announcement? She collapsed into a chair, her perfectly manicured hand clutching her pearl necklace. But you're just what? I asked softly. Just an analyst? Just the family disappointment who never reached management level? My executive team was efficiently transforming the office around us. New nameplates appeared, security badges were collected, access codes changed. The machinery of corporate takeover hummed smoothly. The shares, Uncle Pete suddenly said. Your mother's shares. The ones you inherited. Were the foundation, I nodded. While you were all watching the major shareholders, I was quietly building my position through dozens of smaller accounts. Rather like how you ignored my small career moves. My phone buzzed again. HR, executive termination packages prepared. IT, system access transfers complete. Facilities, new signage ready for installation. You'll find your severance packages on your desks, I continued. Generous ones in spite of everything. We are family after all. The office had fallen silent except for the soft sounds of phones buzzing with news alerts and shocked messages. The main conference room at Thompson Financial Group, now Meridian's newest acquisition, was packed to capacity. Financial reporters filled the front rows, cameras ready. Behind them sat wide-eyed employees, whispering among themselves as they spotted familiar faces being escorted to the executive seating area. Uncle Pete, James, and other former executives were directed to their reserved seats, looking shell-shocked. Aunt Margaret had positioned herself near the door, probably planning a quick escape from the impending public humiliation. My PR director stepped up to the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO of Meridian Corporation, Elizabeth Morgan. I walked onto the stage wearing not the simple blazer from yesterday's family reunion, but a perfectly tailored designer suit that cost more than James's Rolex. The room erupted in camera flashes and surprised murmurs as people recognized junior analyst Emily. Good morning, I began, my voice carrying clearly through the stunned silence. Today marks not just a merger between two financial institutions, but a lesson in perception versus reality. My phone discreetly buzzed with updates. Market Watch, breaking. Thompson Financial Group acquired in surprise takeover. Wall Street Journal, mystery CEO Elizabeth Morgan's true identity revealed. Financial Times, family drama meets corporate takeover in historic merger. For those who know me as Emily Thompson, the supposedly perpetual junior analyst, this may come as a shock, I continued, watching Uncle Pete's face redden. For the past 5 years, while being dismissed as just a paper pusher, I've been building Meridian Corporation into one of the largest financial institutions in the country. The reporters' fingers flew across their keyboards, capturing every word. To our employees, I turned to address the nervous staff. Let me be clear. This merger isn't about revenge or corporate raiding. It's about creating a stronger, more ethical financial institution. Unlike the previous management, I glanced at Uncle Pete. We believe in promoting talent regardless of family connections or social status. James shifted uncomfortably in his seat as several employees nodded in agreement. Effective immediately, all employee salaries will be reviewed for equity adjustments. The previous practice of reserving bonuses for family-approved executives ends today. Merit, not last names, will determine advancement. The back of the room where the lower-level employees sat broke into spontaneous applause. Furthermore, I continued, clicking to the next slide, we're implementing comprehensive anti-nepotism policies and establishing an independent oversight committee for all executive decisions. My phone kept buzzing. HR, employee messages flooding in overwhelming support for new policies. Legal, former executives' non-competes activated. Operations, branch offices confirming leadership changes. Now, I said, clicking to a slide showing Thomson Financial's recent performance metrics. Let's discuss the real state of the company under the previous management. Uncle Pete half rose from his seat, but my security team's subtle presence made him reconsider. These graphs show systematic preferential treatment of family members, misallocation of resources, and declining market performance masked by creative accounting. Each point was illustrated with damning evidence collected during my years as the invisible analyst. While executives were booking private jets and buying vacation homes, I continued, bringing up more slides, qualified employees were being passed over for promotions in favor of family members with fraction of their experience. James slouched lower in his seat as his recent promotion details appeared on screen. For example, I highlighted a particular chart. Cousin James's division showed a 40% decline in performance since his appointment, while maintaining the highest operational costs in the company's history. The room buzzed with whispers as employees recognized their own experiences in my presentation. But today marks a new era, I announced, revealing Meridian's reorganization plan. Every position will be evaluated based on merit. Every promotion will be transparent. And yes, I smiled at the back rows. Every suggestion box comment that was previously ignored will be reviewed by our new management team. My phone lit up again. Employee relations, whistleblower hotline receiving first reports. Compliance, previous management's questionable transactions flagged for review. IT, executive email archives secured for audit.
The gleaming corporate headquarters of TechVision Solutions buzzed with excitement. Investors and press filled the main conference room, all eager to witness what was being called the tech IPO of the year. I adjusted my glasses and slipped into a seat at the back, just another face in the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, the investment banker announced, please welcome TechVision's founder and CEO, Andrew Porter. My ex-husband strode onto the stage like he owned the world. In his $5,000 suit and perfectly styled hair, he looked every bit the successful tech entrepreneur. The audience burst into applause. My name is Olivia Chen, and 5 years ago, Andrew Porter stole my dream. TechVision's revolutionary AI-driven security system, Andrew began, his voice filled with practiced charm, represents a complete paradigm shift in how we protect sensitive data. Our proprietary algorithms can predict and prevent cyber attacks before they happen. I pulled out my tablet and opened my email, checking the timestamp one more time, 3:45 p.m. In 15 minutes, everything would change. The journey hasn't been easy, Andrew continued, clicking through his presentation slides. When I first conceived of predictive cybersecurity, everyone said it was impossible. But through sheer determination and countless sleepless nights of coding, we proved them wrong. I had to bite back a laugh. Those sleepless nights of coding have been mine, hunched over my laptop in our small apartment while Andrew told me I was wasting my time. Nobody's going to buy security software from a woman, he'd said. Especially not in this industry. Back then, I'd been working as a cybersecurity analyst at a major bank, spending my free time developing my idea for an AI-driven security system. Andrew had been between startups, living off my salary while he networked at tech industry parties. The core of our technology, Andrew was saying, lies in our unique approach to machine learning. Our algorithms don't just react to threats, they learn, adapt, and evolve. My algorithms, the ones I'd spent 3 years developing, testing, refining. The ones stored on my laptop, which had mysteriously crashed the day after Andrew moved out. He'd offered to take a look at it before he left. I declined. What he didn't know was that I'd already seen the signs. The late-night phone calls he thought I couldn't hear. The sudden interest in my work after years of dismissing it. The way he'd started asking detailed questions about my development process. So I'd taken precautions. TechVision's technology is protected by multiple patents, Andrew said proudly, displaying a slide showing his patent numbers. Our intellectual property portfolio is rock solid. I checked my phone again, 3:55 p.m. In 5 minutes, my lawyer would be delivering some very interesting documents to the SEC and the Patent Office. Now, Andrew continued, I'm excited to announce that following today's IPO, we'll be expanding into the European market. Our projections show. He stopped mid-sentence as the door opened and a man in a suit entered, whispering something to the investment banker. The banker's face went pale. Mr. Porter, he said quietly, we need to pause the presentation. There's been a development. Andrew's confident smile faltered slightly. Whatever it is can wait. We're in the middle of. Sir, the man in the suit interrupted. The SEC has just received a patent challenge. They're halting the IPO pending investigation. The room erupted in murmurs. Investors began checking their phones. Reporters started typing frantically. That's impossible, Andrew snapped. Our patents are solid. Who's making this challenge? That was my cue. I stood up, removing my glasses. I am. Andrew's face went from confused to shocked to pale as he recognized me. Olivia, what are you? Hello, Andrew, I said, my voice carrying in the now quiet room. It's been a while. I walked to the front of the room, pulling out my tablet, 5 years to be exact. Since the day you left with a copy of my source code and a dream of becoming a tech CEO. This is ridiculous, he sputtered. Security, get her out of here. I wouldn't, I said calmly, not unless you want to explain to these investors why you're trying to silence the original patent holder of your core technology. I connected my tablet to the presentation screen. The room gasped as my documentation appeared. Patent filings dated 3 years before TechVision's original source code commits, development logs, and most damaging of all, emails from Andrew himself discussing how to steal and repurpose my work. You see, I continued, while you were busy filing patents on stolen technology, I was building a paper trail. Every development log, every test result, every piece of code, all authenticated and timestamped. And now, just as you're about to cash in on my work, it's time for the truth to come out. Andrew's face had gone from pale to red. You're lying. I developed this technology myself. Everyone knows. Everyone knows what you told them. I cut in. But the evidence tells a different story. Would you like me to walk through the code base? Explain how the neural network architecture works? Because I can you? The investment banker was frantically reading something on his phone. Mr. Porter, the SEC filing. These documents, they appear legitimate. Of course they're legitimate, I said. Just like the cease and desist order your legal team should be receiving right about now. Right on cue, Andrew's phone buzzed. He looked at it, and I saw the moment he realized everything was falling apart. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. The next hour in that conference room was like watching a castle made of sand crumble under an incoming tide. As I walked the audience through my documentation, Andrew's carefully constructed facade began to crack. The neural network architecture, I explained, pulling up the original code, was designed to mimic human intuition and pattern recognition. Each layer learns from previous cyber attacks to predict future vectors. An investor in the front row leaned forward. This is remarkably similar to TechVision's current system. Identical, actually, I corrected. Down to the comment structure in the code. Andrew didn't even bother to change my variable names. Andrew, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly found his voice. This proves nothing. Anyone could have written similar code. The concept of AI-driven security was obvious. Then explain how it works, I challenged. Explain the quantum-resistant encryption protocol I embedded in the third layer. Explain why I chose a modified sigmoid function for the neural activation. His face went blank. The room grew quiet, waiting for his response. That's proprietary information, he stammered. Actually, I said, pulling up another document, it's all detailed in my original patent filing. The one I submitted 3 years before TechVision even existed. The investment banker was huddled with his legal team in the corner, their faces growing more concerned by the minute. One of them approached Andrew, whispering urgently in his ear. "This is the shakedown," Andrew announced, trying to regain control. "She's my ex-wife, obviously bitter about our divorce, trying to extort money from a successful company." I held up my hand. "Let me stop you right there. This isn't about money, Andrew. It's about truth. About credit where it's due." I turned to address the room. 5 years ago, this man stole my work, my dreams, and tried to build his success on my innovation. Today, I'm taking it back. Taking it back? Andrew laughed, but there was an edge of panic in his voice. "You can't just walk in here and..." "Actually, I can," I interrupted, nodding to my lawyer who had just entered the room. "The patent office has already initiated an investigation. The SEC is halting the IPO pending their findings. And most importantly," I paused, savoring the moment, "I've just acquired controlling interest in TechVision Solutions." The room erupted in chaos. Andrew's face went from red to white. "That's impossible," he whispered. "The majority shares are held by venture capital firms." "Were held," I corrected, "until this morning when Quantum Ventures acquired their positions. Would you like to know who owns Quantum Ventures, Andrew?" I didn't wait for his response. I pulled up the final document, incorporation papers showing me as the sole owner of Quantum Ventures, the investment firm that had just become TechVision's majority shareholder. "You see," I continued, "while you were busy playing tech CEO, I was building something of my own. A venture capital firm specializing in cybersecurity startups. We've been quietly acquiring shares in TechVision for the past year, waiting for this moment." The investment banker approached, his face grim. "Mr. Porter, given these developments, we have no choice but to suspend the IPO proceedings. The SEC will want to..." "This is a trick," Andrew interrupted, his voice rising. "A manipulation. You can't just walk in here and destroy everything I've built." "Everything you built?" I repeated softly. "Let's talk about what you actually built, Andrew. A house of cards based on stolen technology. A reputation built on lies. And now," I smiled, "it's all coming down." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal proceedings, press conferences, and corporate restructuring. TechVision's board of directors held an emergency meeting where, faced with overwhelming evidence, they voted to remove Andrew as CEO. I sat in what had been Andrew's office, now mine, reviewing the damage he'd done to my original code. He'd made changes over the years, but they were mostly superficial, like putting a new paint job on a stolen car. "Ms. Chen," my assistant poked her head in. "Andrew's lawyers are here. They say they have a proposal." I nodded, not looking up from my computer. "Send them in." 2 expensive suits entered, carrying briefcases and concerned expressions. I recognized them from our divorce 5 years ago. They'd been just as condescending then. "Mrs. Porter," one began. "Ms. Chen," I corrected, finally looking up. "What can I do for you, gentlemen?" They exchanged glances before the older one spoke. "Our client is prepared to make a very generous settlement offer in exchange for dropping the patent challenge and signing an NDA about the origins of the technology. He's willing to offer $20 million. I actually laughed. $20 million. For technology that's worth billions? That's currently protecting the data of Fortune 500 companies worldwide. $30 million then. The younger lawyer jumped in. Plus a public statement acknowledging your contributions. I stood up, walking to the window that overlooked the city. "Let me be clear, this isn't about money. It's about recognition. About justice. Your client didn't just steal my code. He tried to erase me from my own creation's history." "Ms. Chen," the older lawyer said carefully, "litigation could take years. The publicity could damage the company's value." "The company's value is already damaged," I cut in, "because it was built on lies. But I'm going to fix that. Starting today." I turned back to them. "Here's my counter offer. Andrew admits publicly to stealing my technology, resigns from the board, and transfers all his remaining shares to a foundation I'm establishing to support women in tech. In exchange, I don't press criminal charges for intellectual property theft." They stared at me, clearly not expecting this response. That's everything he has left," the younger one protested. "No," I said quietly. "What he had was an opportunity to build something legitimate, to be a real partner in innovation. Instead, he chose to steal and lie. These are the consequences." After they left, I called an all-hands meeting. The company's employees needed to hear the truth from me directly, standing on the same stage where Andrew had tried to launch his IPO weeks earlier. I looked out at hundreds of nervous faces. "Tech Vision isn't going anywhere," I began. "The technology works. I should know, I created it. But we're going to rebuild this company on a foundation of truth and innovation, not lies and theft." I clicked through slides showing my original development work, the evolution of the technology, and our path forward. Some of you may have questions about your jobs, about the future. Let me be clear, if you're here to innovate, to create, to make the digital world safer, you have a place here. If you're here because Andrew promised you riches based on stolen work, well, there's the door. Over the next few months, we transformed Tech Vision. I brought in my own team from Quantum Ventures, promoted talented developers who'd been overlooked under Andrew's leadership, and refocused the company on genuine innovation. The press couldn't get enough of the story. Tech's greatest heist exposed, read one headline. Woman reclaims stolen innovation, proclaimed another. I did select interviews not to gloat, but to send a message to other women in tech. Don't let anyone steal your dreams. 1 year later, we finally had our IPO. The company, now renamed Chen Security Solutions, was valued at 3 times what Tech Vision had been. More importantly, we built something real, something honest. As for Andrew, last I heard, he was trying to launch a new startup, but investors were wary. It turned out having a reputation for stealing intellectual property wasn't great for attracting funding. The day after our successful IPO, I received a package. Inside was a familiar laptop, my old one that had mysteriously crashed 5 years ago. With it was a note in Andrew's handwriting. "You were right. I was wrong. I'm sorry." I plugged in the laptop, not surprised to find that the hard drive had been wiped. But it didn't matter anymore. The truth had come out, justice had been served, and I had built something far greater than Andrew could have imagined. That evening, I sat in my office, looking at a photo from graduate school. Me at my first hackathon, beaming with pride over code I'd written. I thought about that young woman, so full of dreams and determination, and wished I could tell her that everything would work out better than she could imagine. My phone buzzed. A message from my new head of development. "The quantum encryption upgrade is ready for testing. Want to take a look?" I smiled, opening my laptop. This was what real innovation felt like, not stolen dreams and borrowed glory, but genuine creation and honest achievement. "On my way," I replied, heading to the development floor where my team waited. This was my company now, built on truth, run with integrity, and changing the future of cybersecurity. And the best part, I didn't have to hide in anyone's shadow anymore. The story of how Andrew Porter stole my technology would always be part of my history, but it wasn't my future. My future was in the lines of code I was writing, in the innovations we were creating, and in the example we were setting for the next generation of women in tech. Sometimes I realized you have to lose everything to gain something greater. You have to have your dreams stolen to learn how to build them stronger. And sometimes justice comes not in the form of revenge, but in the simple power of truth finally being heard. "More of a team player?" I repeated, my voice steady despite the anger bubbling beneath the surface. My boss Marcus leaned back in his leather chair, that insufferable smile still plastered across his face. "Look, Emma, you're great at what you do. Nobody's denying that. But Jessica, she knows how to work with people. She brings energy to the office. You're just too focused on results." Too focused on results. The words echoed in my head as I sat there, gripping the armrests of my chair. 5 years I'd given to this company. 5 years of early mornings, late nights, and sacrificed weekends. I'd single-handedly landed our biggest clients, streamlined our operations, and increased our department's efficiency by 40%. And now I was being passed over for a promotion because I was too focused on results. My name is Emma Chin, and at 32, I learned the hard way that corporate success isn't always about merit. Sometimes it's about playing the game, about knowing whose ego to stroke and whose coffee to fetch. Jessica was certainly good at that. She'd been with the company for barely 2 years, but she'd already mastered the art of taking credit for other people's work while doing virtually none of her own. I watched as Marcus shuffled some papers on his desk, probably expecting me to break down or protest. But I didn't. Instead, I reached into my bag and pulled out a crisp white envelope. "I understand," I said, placing the envelope on his desk, "and I appreciate you letting me know. Here's my resignation letter. My last day will be in 2 weeks." Marcus's smug smile faltered. This clearly wasn't the reaction he'd expected. "Now, Emma, let's not be hasty, just because you didn't get the promotion." "It's not hasty," I cut him off, my voice calm but firm. "I've given it a lot of thought, and you're right, I am focused on results. That's why I've decided to pursue other opportunities where that quality is valued." What Marcus didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I hadn't just been working on company projects these past 5 years. In my spare time, I'd been building something of my own. Something that would make Marcus' promotion look like the joke it was. As I walked out of his office, I could feel the eyes of my coworkers on me. News traveled fast in our department, and Jessica was probably already planning how to redecorate my cubicle. I kept my head high as I made my way back to my desk, remembering the other piece of paper tucked inside that resignation letter. The one that would make Marcus realize exactly what he was losing. The next 2 weeks were exactly what you'd expect. Jessica pranced around the office like she owned the place, making a show of learning the ropes of her new position. She'd stop by my desk occasionally, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "Emma, I hope there are no hard feelings," she said one morning, perching on the edge of my desk. "I know you worked really hard for this promotion." I looked up from my computer, where I was methodically downloading copies of all my work files. Not to steal them, I had too much integrity for that, but to ensure I had documentation of everything I contributed to the company. "No hard feelings at all, Jessica. I'm sure you'll do great." She smiled, probably thinking I was admitting defeat. She had no idea. The truth was, for the past 3 years, I've been secretly developing a revolutionary project management system. It had started as a way to keep track of my own work, but it had evolved into something much more powerful. I tested it, refined it, and used it to achieve those results that Marcus found so troublesome. And now, with my resignation letter, I'd included a detailed report showing exactly how much money and time my system had saved the company. The kicker? I'd also included a notice that I'd filed for a patent on the system 6 months ago. It had been approved last week, but that wasn't even the best part. A week into my notice period, I received an email from Robert Chen, no relation, the CEO of our biggest competitor. He'd heard through the grapevine that I was leaving and wanted to meet for coffee. I'd smiled when I saw his name in my inbox. Everything was falling into place exactly as I planned. The meeting with Robert was everything I'd hoped for. He'd been following my work for months, impressed by how I transformed our client relationships and streamlined our processes. He didn't just offer me a job. He offered me a partnership role complete with creative control over my system's implementation across their entire organization. "We've been looking for someone like you, Emma," he said, sliding a contract across the table. "Someone who understands that results matter. The salary is triple what you're making now, plus equity in the company." I took the contract, my hands steady despite my racing heart. This was what recognition felt like. This was what it felt like to be valued. The day I handed in my security badge, Marcus called me into his office one last time. The smug smile was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like panic. "Emma, we need to talk about this report you included with your resignation letter," he said, holding up the papers with shaking hands. "Why didn't you tell us about this system before?" I sat down, smoothing my skirt as I did. "I tried, Marcus. 3 times in the past year, I requested meetings to discuss implementing new efficiency measures. You said we needed to focus on team dynamics instead." His face paled as he flipped through the pages. But this is revolutionary. The potential savings alone. And you've already patented it." I nodded, enjoying the way his voice cracked. "I have, and I've accepted a position with Chen Industries. They're very excited about implementing the system company-wide." Marcus slumped in his chair, the full weight of his mistake finally hitting him. "Chen Industries? Our biggest competitor. Emma, you can't." What about loyalty to the company? Loyalty? I couldn't help but laugh. Like the loyalty you showed me when you promoted Jessica. Like the loyalty you showed when you dismissed every suggestion I made because I wasn't enough of a team player? I stood up, straightening my jacket. You know what the funny thing is, Marcus? If you looked past your biases, if you actually paid attention to the results I was achieving instead of focusing on who brought you coffee or laughed at your jokes, none of this would be happening. But you didn't. And now Chin Industries is going to have an advantage that you can't match. We'll match any offer they made, he said quickly, desperation creeping into his voice. We'll promote you to senior director. Just don't go to Chen. I shook my head, almost pitying him. It's not about the money or the title, Marcus. It's about respect. It's about recognizing value, and you've made it very clear where you stand on that. As I walked out of his office for the last time, I heard him frantically dialing his phone, probably calling the executive team to figure out damage control. But it was too late. The patent was mine, the new job was signed, and Jessica. Well, Jessica would soon learn that taking credit for other people's work only gets you so far when you have to actually deliver results. That evening, as I packed up my desk, I found a post-it note stuck to my monitor. It was from Jessica, written in her flowing script. Sorry to see you go. Keep in touch. I smiled as I crumpled it up and tossed it in the trash. Oh, she'd be hearing about me all right. The whole industry would be. My first day at Chin Industries felt like stepping into a different world. Instead of a cramped cubicle, I had a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows. My name was etched on a sleek glass nameplate. Emma Chen, Director of Operations and Strategic Innovation. But the real difference wasn't in the office or the title, it was in how people treated me. Robert Chen, the CEO, had called an all-hands meeting to introduce me. Standing at the front of the conference room, he didn't just announce my position. He outlined my achievements, explained the value of my management system, and made it clear that I would have full authority to implement changes across the organization. Emma isn't just joining our team, he said, his voice carrying across the packed room. She's bringing with her a revolutionary approach to project management that will transform how we operate. I expect everyone to give her their full cooperation. The contrast to my old company couldn't have been more stark. There, I'd been the quiet workhorse, the one who got things done but was never acknowledged. Here, I was being celebrated for exactly what Marcus had dismissed, my focus on results. But the real satisfaction came 3 months later. I was in the middle of a team meeting when my phone buzzed with a text from my old colleague, David. You might want to check the industry news, it read. Something big just dropped about Meridian Corp. Meridian Corp, my old company. I excused myself from the meeting and hurried back to my office, pulling up the industry news site on my computer. The headline made me catch my breath. Meridian Corp shares preliminary 30% following disastrous collateral I face. The article detailed how Meridian had lost 3 major clients in the past quarter, with several others threatening to follow. Project delays had skyrocketed, costs had spiraled out of control, and efficiency metrics had dropped to all-time lows. The company's stock was in freefall. As I scrolled through the article, one quote caught my eye. It was from Thomas Reynolds, one of our biggest former clients. The quality of service at Meridian has deteriorated significantly in recent months. Projects that used to be completed smoothly are now constantly delayed. It's like they've completely lost their organizational structure. I couldn't help but smile. Those smooth-running projects, they'd all been managed through my system. The organizational structure they'd lost, that was the framework I built over 5 years, the one Marcus had never bothered to understand. My phone buzzed again. Another text from David. Jessica's having a complete meltdown. She can't handle the workload, and Marcus is starting to realize she has no idea what she's doing. I set my phone down, thinking about the irony of it all. Jessica, who'd spent 2 years taking credit for other people's work, was finally being forced to produce results on her own. And Marcus, who'd chosen style over substance, was watching his department crumble. But I had bigger things to focus on. At Chen Industries, my system was already showing remarkable results. Project completion times had been cut in half, client satisfaction scores were at record highs, and our efficiency metrics were off the charts. Robert had already approved my proposal to expand the system company-wide, and we were in talks with several major clients who wanted to license the technology. One morning, about 6 months after I'd left Meridian, I walked into my office to find Robert waiting for me, a newspaper in his hands. "Have you seen this?" he asked, holding it up. The headline read, "Meridian QRP CEO SDPS down on AMAD continuing crisis." I nodded, taking the paper from him. I saw the announcement. "Word is they're completely restructuring the company," Robert said, watching my reaction carefully. The board finally realized how badly they'd mismanaged their talent. Apparently, they tried to recreate your system, but without the underlying architecture. It wouldn't work. I finished for him. The system isn't just about the software or the processes. It's about understanding how all the pieces fit together. Robert smiled, the kind of smile that said he knew exactly what he had in me. "Which is why we're announcing your promotion to Executive Vice President next week." The board voted unanimously. They've seen what you've done here in just 6 months, and they want more. I felt a warmth spread through my chest. This was what recognition felt like. This was what it meant to be valued for your actual contributions, not just your ability to play office politics. Later that day, I received an unexpected email. It was from Marcus. "Emma, I hope this finds you well. I'm sure you've heard about the changes at Meridian. I wanted to reach out and acknowledge that I made a massive mistake in not recognizing your value to the company. The system you built was the backbone of our success, and we didn't realize it until it was gone. I'm no longer with Meridian." The board asked for my resignation last week. Before I left, I made sure they knew that this could have been avoided if we listened to you. Jessica resigned a month ago. Turns out managing actual projects is a lot harder than taking credit for other people's work. I know it's too late to fix things, but I wanted you to know that you were right. Results do matter. I just wish I'd seen that sooner. Best regards, Marcus. I read the email twice, letting the words sink in. There was a time when this kind of acknowledgement would have meant everything to me. Now, sitting in my executive office at Chen Industries, preparing for another board meeting where my ideas would be heard and valued, it felt like a footnote in a story that had already moved on. I clicked reply and typed a simple response. "Marcus, thank you for your email. You're right, results do matter. I hope you find success in your future endeavors. Best, Emma." As I hit send, I glanced at the framed patent certificate hanging on my wall, the one for my management system. Below it was a fresh plaque commemorating our record-breaking quarter, and beside that, a news article featuring me as one of the industry's rising stars. I thought about how far I'd come from that day in Marcus's office, when he told me I was too focused on results. That criticism had turned out to be the greatest compliment he could have given me. Because here, in my new role with my new team, those results were changing the industry. The next morning, I called a team meeting. As I looked around the conference room at the eager faces, people who respected me, who valued my input, who were excited to learn from me, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. "Today," I began, "we're going to talk about our next big project. But first, I want to share a story about the importance of recognizing value, not just in systems or processes, but in people." And as I spoke, I could see understanding dawn in their eyes. They got it. They understood that success isn't just about playing the game or being a team player. It's about creating real value and having the courage to stand by your convictions. Sometimes I realized the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about moving forward, about building something better than what you left behind. Marcus, Jessica, and Meridian Corp had taught me that valuable lesson, even if they hadn't meant to. As I drove home that evening, I passed by the Meridian Corp building. The logo that once seemed so imposing now looked tired and dated. A for lease sign hung in one of the windows. They were downsizing, another casualty of their poor management decisions. But I didn't feel any triumph at their downfall. Instead, I felt grateful. Grateful that they had underestimated me, grateful that they had pushed me away, grateful that they had forced me to prove my worth not just to them, but to myself. Because sometimes, the biggest opportunities come disguised as rejection. Sometimes, being too focused on results is exactly what you need to be. And sometimes, the best response to someone undervaluing you is to show them exactly what they missed out on. My phone buzzed. Another text from David. "Meridian's board is asking about you. They want to know if you'd consider coming back as CEO." I smiled as I typed my response. thanks, but I'm exactly where I need to be. And I was, because success isn't just about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about standing firm in your convictions, even when others doubt you. It's about knowing your worth and not settling for less. As I pulled into my driveway, I thought about all the other Emmas out there, talented people being overlooked because they were too focused on results. Maybe my story would inspire them to stand their ground, to believe in their value, to create their own opportunities. After all, sometimes the best way to handle rejection is to turn it into rocket fuel, to use it as motivation to build something better, something stronger, something that makes them realize exactly what they lost. And as I sat down at my home office to review the latest proposals for expanding our system globally, I couldn't help but smile. Because in the end, Marcus had been right about one thing. I was too focused on results, and that focus had taken me exactly where I needed to be.